One in the sky, it's cloudy. No one knew when lightning had suddenly appeared. Endless origin chi roared from the sky and crazily poured into Xiaoyan's body. On Xiaoyan's skin, there were blood-red cracks all over his body. His body looked like it was going to break apart. Blood was gushing out from his body. With just his body alone, even if Xiaoyan used all of his strength, he wouldn't be able to withstand such a huge amount of energy. At this moment, Xiaoyan had a ferocious expression. Blood flowed out from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. It was extremely terrifying. He stretched his arm forward, and dazzling starlight gushed out from his palm. It was as if he was holding a world of stars, and he was going to explode forward. On the other side, Kang Feng's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. When he sensed the terrifying qi that was contained in Xiaoyan's body, his eyes became even more terrified. He spat out 4 or 5 drops of blood essence in a row, and it had almost consumed all the energy in his body. Cruel Jia Jia Jia. At this moment, the 10,000 black chains were even darker than before. Countless evil spirits were howling at the same time. The sound waves caused some Emperor cultivation warriors to tremble. Just the sound waves alone were already so powerful. If Yuv Mu unleashed it at his peak, these Emperor cultivation warriors would probably explode and die. Boom! 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 The heaven and earth were trembling. The origin chi was in a chaotic state. Everyone on the scene felt that they could not breathe properly. The dense origin chi and wild wind had blocked their line of sight. Quickly dodge. Old man Chiang's gaze turned cold. At this moment, he finally knew what kind of ultimate technique Xiaoyan had displayed. Immediately, he let out a stern shout and his voice reached everyone's ears, causing them to be startled. Without any hesitation, they immediately retreated. Roar! Roar! The boundless qi that spread from the top of the mountain caused all the heavenly beasts in the dense forest below to stand up straight. It was as if they had sensed something terrifying. They kept roaring loudly, and their hearts were filled with fear. This is Xing Luo? In midair, Ling Jiyu looked at the charging Xiaoyan in horror. With every movement of the latter, the world seemed to change. The starlight in Xiaoyan's palm shone brightly. In his heavenly god eye, it was as if he was controlling an incomplete star realm. The stars in the star realm fell and the starlight was extinguished. I can't be wrong. The star technique is the arts of synchronization that only the old master has mastered. This qi should be the descending of stars. I just don't know where the other 2 parts are. A hint of joy flashed across old man Chiang's eyes, and then infinite worries emerged in his heart. He stared at Kang Feng, who was surrounded by endless black qi in the center. Yuv Mu, who was in the latter's body, must not be allowed to escape. However, this kind of fierce attack also had the arts of synchronization. Even he didn't dare to rashly step into it, although with Xiaoyan's strength. However, the energy of the Star Moon Island. Hong Long, we can't let those people know about Yuv Mu's matter, otherwise, I'm afraid there will be chaos in the entire great world. Clenching his teeth, Old Man Chang spoke in a low voice and gave the order to Ling Jiyu and Lu Chong who were standing beside him. Both of them naturally knew the severity of the matter and nodded in agreement. My God! Is this still a battle between Monarch Emperor warriors? This qi is something that even heavenly sovereign-level supreme elders in the sect have never seen before. Xu Mo's eyes widened. He looked at Xiaoyan and Kang Feng and murmured to himself in surprise. On the side, Zhou Yuan's facial expression was incomparably solemn. Both of his eyes were staring at Xiaoyan. The latter was like a bloody man, looking incomparably ferocious. However, Zhou Yuan's attention wasn't on the former. Instead, he was staring at Xiaoyan's palm. The starlight there was dazzling, as if it was carrying countless fallen stars. Zhou Yuan slowly raised his palm. He looked at his palm without leaving a trace, then clenched it tightly. A trace of sharpness flashed across his eyes. The strength that Xiaoyan had displayed had indeed shocked him, but this kind of shocking technique. It wasn't like he, Zhou Yuan, didn't have it either. Swoosh, swoosh. The black flame continuously burned around Xiaoyan's body. The 10,000 ghost chains broke through the space and entered the black flame. They only slightly eased the attack for a moment before they once again smashed toward Xiaoyan. However, they were all instantly shattered by the starlight that spread around Xiaoyan's body. Crash! As the 2 of them approached, more and more ghost mixed chains entered the all-embracing nether flame. Their might did not even reduce in the slightest. They penetrated through the space and arrived in front of Xiao Yan. The brutal sounds from the chains were monstrous. They seemed to carry endless resentment as they continued to attack Xiao Yan. Although the starlight flickered wildly and shattered the chains one after another, the endless chains that swarmed forward still caused Xiao Yan to fall into a difficult situation. Hong! Kai! Under the furious roars of the two men, Xiao Yan's bent fingers suddenly opened up. A ball of starlight jumped out from his palm, as if it had formed a star realm. It crushed through layers of space. Kang Feng's palms also separated, and a dark spiritual light that pierced into the bone appeared. Facing the starlight, at the same time, the chains that filled the sky seemed to have received some kind of stimulation as they crazily surged. They shattered layer after layer of space, revealing a pitch-black space that caused people to tremble in fear. Wang! A dazzling light suddenly appeared, causing everyone's eyes to light up. They could not help but close their eyes. In the next moment, everyone felt a slight tremble in front of them. An endless aura surged over like a tidal wave. It sent everyone flying. It was the entire Star Moon Island. At this moment, it was as if the island was shaking. The sea level around the island had been peaceful for many years. As if it had been struck by a powerful attack, monstrous waves soared into the sky. It reached the blue sky, and the waves that were hundreds of thousands of meters wide separated the entire sea level. The white waves surged into the sky, and their power was boundless. Hulala! After an unknown amount of time, the light in front of him finally dissipated. Old Man Chang immediately opened his eyes. When he saw the scene after the attack, his heart was immediately startled. A large spatial zone had shattered in the middle of the battle. At this moment, the shattered spatial zone was slowly healing. However, both of them had lost their figures. Quickly, find Kang Feng first. We can't let Yuv Mu leave. Old Man Chang shouted. His eyes were sharp, and there was some lingering fear in his heart. Yuv Mu had only borrowed the strength of a young man who had reached the quasi-emperor cultivation to unleash such a powerful monarch skill. If he possessed the body of a true expert, it would be a disaster for the entire world. Swoosh! Ling Jiyu and Lu Chong rushed forward after Old Man Chiang's voice sounded. The attack just now had given them a shock. This kind of power was really too frightening. Where is Xiao Yan? Su Ziyang opened his eyes. He immediately looked towards the middle of the area. Xiao Yan's figure was no longer there. Immediately, he became extremely anxious. His eyes had even turned blood red. Those two brats are too crazy. This is great. Don't tell me they were both killed by my ultimate move. That's right. Even us Emperor Cultivation warriors are shocked by it. This is truly unimaginable. The others opened their eyes one after another. When they saw the slowly healing space black hole in the distance, they said with lingering fear in their hearts. We found Kang Feng. Just as everyone was sighing with emotion, Lu Chang's voice suddenly sounded, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Okay. Old Man Chang was delighted when he heard this. He quickly rushed to Lu Chang's side and saw Kang Feng lying in a huge pit, unable to move. Swoosh! Old Man Chang was just about to capture Kang Feng when a human figure suddenly appeared in front of him and blocked him. Xing Qianyue? What are you doing? When Old Man Chang saw the face of the newcomer, he couldn't help but become angry. He spoke in a deep voice, and his tone was filled with uncontrollable anger. What am I doing? I would like to ask you what you want to do. No matter what happened to Kang Feng, he is still a student of Star Sky. I am here to see who dares to touch a finger of his. Xing Qianyu's expression was cold and gloomy. He was also incomparably furious. Kang Feng had given him too much shock in this competition, but no matter what, he had to accept it seriously. According to the rules, the last place in Star Sky Academy would be decided this time. How dare you, Xing Qianyue? I have the right to judge anyone here. Old Man Chang frowned and gritted his teeth. He really didn't dare to tell Xing Qianyue everything about Yuv Mu. Judgment? You old thing, do you really think I'm afraid of you? I respect you. I'm just giving you face. Don't be ungrateful. Xing Qianyue sneered when he heard this. Before he could finish his words, he suddenly threw out a punch. Without any warning, it sent Old Man Chang flying. Swoosh! Right at this moment, in the deep pit below, Kang Feng, who was unable to move, suddenly opened his eyes. He gritted his teeth and a weak black light flashed across his body. In the next moment, Kang Feng fainted. A nearly transparent black light surged out from the top of his head and quietly entered the ground. Xing Qian Yue, move aside. The heavenly god of the spiritual valley instantly sensed the black qi leaving. Just as he was about to catch it, Xing Qian Yue stopped him again. Ling Gu's heart was filled with anxiety, and he couldn't help but shout out in anger. A bunch of old things are shouting and yelling in front of me. Do they really think that they are the spokesperson of the heavens? Xing Qian Yue, who couldn't calm down the anger in his heart, only sneered. He had long disliked these people. Even if he killed them, no one would say anything. One on the top of the mountain, the vast ground was full of bumps and hollows. The boiling hot dust had yet to dissipate. Everyone looked at Xing Qian Yue in shock. The latter was so rude to the judges of 4 academies competition. After a moment of shock, some of them couldn't help but feel excited. Their respect for these seemingly weak old men was mostly on the surface. Currently, Xing Qian Yue alone could force them to be speechless. If they attacked now, perhaps they could obtain endless benefits. Where's Xiaoyan? Did you find him? Su Ziyang acted as if he didn't hear the conflict between Xing Qian Yue and the few old men. His eyes were red as he stood in midair. His eyes swept across the land frantically, searching for traces of Xiaoyan. However, under his powerful senses, he couldn't sense Xiaoyan's location at all, causing his heart to panic. In the distance, Yi Zan and Tang Hong were also doing their best to search for Xiaoyan. They had searched almost every inch of the mountain, but they still couldn't find any trace of Xiaoyan. Kiera sat on the ground listlessly and blinked her beautiful eyes. Suddenly, she closed her eyes and her body emitted a weak gray origin qi. The next moment, as if she had discovered something, a smile appeared on her small face. Her body slightly trembled and then she merged into the space behind her. In the dark space cracks, streams of chaotic space appeared out of nowhere from time to time. An unconscious figure moved forward along with the flow of space without feeling anything, on the shoulder of the figure. A palm-sized small figure also had a pale face. Clearly, it had used up too many origin qis. The only thing that protected the two of them from being harmed was the surrounding faint layer of black flames. Even though the flames were here, they were still burning vigorously. It was as if they would never be extinguished. It really is here. Kiera's body was wrapped in gray origin qis, allowing him to come and go freely. When he saw the unconscious smile, he gently smiled, but there was a deep paleness in his smile. Quickly put away the flame, I will save you all. Kiera swallowed her saliva. She whispered to the Xiaoao on Xiaoyan's shoulder. She could clearly see the strength of Xiaoyan and Kang Feng when they fought. The Xiaoao lifted its head and saw Kiera's appearance clearly. After a slight hesitation, it gently waved its small hand. The surrounding black flames wiggled and obediently withdrew into Xiaoyan's body. Boom! 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 The flame had just disappeared when a fierce spatial wind whistled over. Kiera hurriedly grabbed Xiaoyan's arm when she saw this. Gray origin qis spread over and completely wrapped around Xiaoyan and the Xiaoao. The Xiaoao took a deep look at Kiera when it saw that she was safe and sound. It moved its body and disappeared from Xiaoyan's shoulder. It entered Xiaoyan's body and began to recuperate. You must be in pain. The small hand was placed on Xiaoyan's arm. When it touched the numerous solidified blood cracks on the latter's arm, Kiera's heart tightened. She muttered to herself. When she saw Xiaoyan's miserable appearance, her eyes involuntarily reddened. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to let you stay behind to deal with Kang Feng. It's my fault. If it wasn't for me, you would have escaped from the inside. You wouldn't have been injured to such an extent. Kiera sobbed softly. Her beautiful eyes turned red and her tears dripped down like beads. When she saw Xiaoyan in such a state, a deep sense of guilt welled up in her heart. Peeved, she was muttering softly. The unconscious Xiaoyan's face suddenly turned dark. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and the pain on his face became even more intense. Not good. The defensive power of this origin qi is too weak. The air pressure is so strong. Kiera immediately stopped sobbing when she saw this. She looked at Xiaoyan's slightly purple face and a deep panic instantly surged into her heart. It still took a long time to bring Xiaoyan out. And in this short period of time, the huge spatial pressure was enough to crush him. Kiera heard Xiaoyan unconsciously groan in pain and lightly bit her teeth. As if she had thought of something, her face turned incomparably red. She looked around in panic and realized that she was in the middle of an empty space black hole. A trace of hesitation flashed across her face, and she took a deep breath. He closed his eyes and bent down. He kissed Xiaoyan's lips and clumsily pried his mouth open. Hu. The pure spatial origin qi in his body surged out from his mouth. Wave after wave surged into Xiaoyan's mouth and entered his body through his throat. Very quickly, Xiaoyan's expression slowly stabilized. Kiera suddenly lifted her head after around a minute. Her pretty face was extremely red. She panted as she looked at Xiaoyan, who had recovered quite a bit. Only when she saw that the latter's eyes were still tightly shut did her nervous heart ease up. Kiera tidied her somewhat messy hair and looked at the man in front of her with a complicated expression. She pulled Xiaoyan's arm and the gray-colored origin qi all over her body surged. A moment later, the figures of the two of them strangely disappeared from this dark black space. In the outside world, Xing Qianyue was still confronting the three judges from Star Moon Island. In the distance, Old Man Chang, who had been blasted down, also stood up at this moment. Xing Qianyue, disrupting the will of the heavens, your crime cannot be forgiven, you can be killed. Starlight shone around Old Man Chiang's body, and his expression was solemn. A beam of light spread out from the sky and wrapped around Old Man Chang. The sound was like the sound of a huge yellow bell, resounding in the air. Hong Long, Xing Qianyue, who was about to fight Ling Jiyu, frowned when he heard this. A bad feeling suddenly surged in his heart. Bang! Old Man Chang changed his image of being so weak that he could not even truss a chicken. His body shot out explosively. None of the experts present could see the former speed clearly. Old Man Chang had already arrived in front of Xing Qianyue. An illusory punch was suddenly thrown out. Xing Qianyue did not even have time to react before his body was sent flying backwards. The force was so great that it actually knocked him out of the island. He crashed into the seawater, causing a huge wave of 10,000 feet. Boom! The moment Xing Qianyue was sent flying, Ling Jiyu had already landed on the ground. Both of his palms quickly formed seals and slammed onto the ground. In an instant, with Ling Jiyu as the center, countless fiery red spirit patterns spread out from his palm. In a split second, the entire Star Moon Island was covered by them. How is it? After sending Xing Qianyue flying with a punch, Old Man Chang landed beside Ling Jiyu with a solemn expression. Damn it! After a while, Ling Jiyu opened his eyes and punched the ground hard. His voice was filled with helplessness. I can't find him anymore. That guy has escaped. Old Man Chiang's expression suddenly became gloomy when he heard this. It was a long time before he gritted his teeth and said, Xing Qianyue. What you did? You've Mu's departure under the watchful eyes of everyone would bring endless disasters to the great world. This responsibility was something that they could not escape from being blamed for. Swoosh! The space trembled. Kiera appeared with the unconscious Xiaoyan. Seeing that the latter was fine, Su Ziyang's restless heart finally calmed down. He looked gratefully at Kiera and immediately checked Xiaoyan's injuries. Although the latter's injuries were terrible, it was fortunate that he didn't injure his origin. His injuries were much lighter compared to Mu Yuyang and the others. Kiera, are you all right? Seeing Kiera blushing and looking in Xiaoyan's direction from time to time, Yi Zan felt that something was not right and asked softly. No. Kiera panicked and quickly denied. Yi Zan frowned. This little guy was not good at lying in the end. With his current appearance, something definitely happened. Although she vaguely thought of something, Yi Zan did not say anything and only lightly patted Kiera's shoulder. This match, no matter what, had exceeded everyone's expectations. Wah! Just as the people on the mountaintop were discussing spiritedly, the sea water in the distance suddenly split open. Xing Qianyue jumped out and looked at Old Man Chang with eyes full of fear. His clothes were also a spirit weapon. When it entered the sea, there was not the slightest bit of water vapor. Xing Qianyue, you still dare to come out? Ling Jiyu didn't get angry at all. Immediately, he roared and his body swayed. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, he once again threw Xing Qianyue into the seawater. Zero seeing Xing Qianyue being thrown into the ocean by the furious Ling Jiyu once again, everyone including Su Ziyang was shocked. Xing Qianyue was an elder of Star Sky Academy after all, and he had a great reputation even in the entire star domain. Today, he had only offended 2 judges, but he had ended up in such a state. Sang Shoshan sat on the ground helplessly, watching Xing Qianyue being sent flying. He gritted his teeth, and his body was trembling, but he didn't dare to say a word. Ling Ji Yu, forget it. Old man Chiang's face darkened. After a moment of silence, he suddenly spoke, stopping Ling Ji Yu. Yu Mu had already escaped. If he attacked Xing Qianyue again, it would arouse everyone's disgust and suspicion. On the side, Lu Cheng's expression was also ugly. Yu Mu's strength was still fresh in his mind. That was a devil sealed by a magical clone of the Domain Lord, who had risked his life to seal him. Today, he had actually slipped away right in front of their eyes. Hearing old man Chiang's voice, Ling Gu's eyes were filled with anger as he looked at Xing Qianyue, who had jumped out of the ocean once again. After that, he turned around and returned to the island. In front of so many people, Xing Qianyue was sent flying by Ling Ji Yu and old man Chang one after another. His old face was full of resentment, but he understood the scariness of these two men. Immediately, his face darkened. He landed on the mountaintop and was about to speak when he saw old man Chang looking at him with a murderous look. Xing Qianyue felt a chill on his back, and he quickly gave up the idea of cursing. Everyone, the competition has ended. I have to say that this competition has indeed exceeded our imagination. We have witnessed the most exciting battle between two outstanding students, and it has made everyone feel satisfied. Taking a deep breath, old man Chang suppressed the anger in his heart and put on an extremely forced smile. His voice was like thunder that resounded in everyone's ears. Hearing old man Chiang's words, everyone put away their little plans and hurriedly listened attentively. Some of the experts who didn't care about these people previously held their breaths and listened attentively to the former's words. After witnessing the two of them crushing Xing Qianyu's strength, no one dared to look down on these few people anymore. When they heard this, almost everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Xiao Yan and Kang Feng were merely monarch-emperor warriors. This kind of strength was like an ant in their eyes, but the combat strength that they had displayed today. Even they were shocked, especially the last two men's heaven-shaking attacks. Under such circumstances, they did not have the confidence to escape safely. Whether it was Kang Feng or Xiao Yan, they seemed to be alive. Swoosh! As they spoke, a few rushing wind sounds suddenly rang out, instantly attracting the attention of the crowd. Turning around, they saw that it was the students who had been eliminated from the arena earlier. At this moment, they were all allowed to come to the mountaintop. Xiao Yan, Wu Shaoqi was the first to rush forward. At first glance, she saw the unconscious Xiao Yan. Immediately, she called out softly. With a panicked expression, she hurriedly came to the side of the ladder. Glancing over, she saw that Mu Yuyang and the others were also unconscious. She could not help but fall into a state of shock. What exactly happened? These people were actually unconscious. Could it be that it was related to the earthquake just now? Wu Tiandu, Luo Zhen, and the few girls from Glaze Academy who came with Wu Shaoqi also had stunned expressions on their faces. They did not know what was going on. His gaze swept across the few people who had just come up. Old man Chang cleared his throat and said in a clear voice, "I believe everyone has seen the result of the competition. There are a total of 12 people. The Glaze Academy has 12, 3, and a total of 15 points. The two people from the Southern Sky Academy are ranked 7th, and their total points are 16. Old man Chiang's voice resounded across the sky, as if he was announcing the outcome of the 4 academies. Yunluo Academy. One of them had 8 points, and the other 2 had 7 points. One person has 1 point, and all the leaders should know that. A team that had the first place in the previous calculations. Therefore, the total points of Yunluo Academy is 125 points. After explaining the rules of the competition slowly, no one had any objections. Most of them had participated in the final battles of the 4 academies competition several times, so they naturally knew about the rules. However, in the past, the academy would get the first place, and the total score of the academy would be doubled in the end. This time, the total score would be reduced by half. When he heard the score of the Yunluo Academy, Su Ziyang's nervous expression relaxed slightly. In the next moment, he turned his eyes to Xing Qianyue, who was standing in the distance. Although he knew that the Star Sky Academy's result this time might not be good, he still felt uneasy that he hadn't heard it for himself. Star Sky Academy. Their points are 11, 10, 9, and 2 points respectively. Counting them all, They are 32 points. Old Man Chang looked at Xing Qianyue with an expressionless face. The latter had a gloomy expression on his face, and his clenched fists were trembling. This time, if it wasn't for Kang Fang's sudden change, the Star Sky Academy would definitely have taken the first place once again. I hereby announce the ranking of the 4 academies competition. The first place will be the Yunluo Academy, the second place will be the Glaze Academy, the third place will be the Southern Sky Academy, and the fourth place will be the Star Sky Academy. The old man's eyes turned and swept across the crowd. Suddenly, his voice rang in everyone's ears. First place. Hearing this, Su Ziyang slightly trembled in front of him. He blinked his eyes and took a deep breath. He was not in a hurry to speak. It was as if he was digesting this unbelievable good news. Wu Shaoqi, who was standing at the side, blinked her eyes in surprise. The Yunluo Academy's number 1? What exactly happened in this competition? Yi Zan smiled lightly and looked at Su Ziyang with her beautiful eyes. When she saw the latter pretending to be calm, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. The second place in Glaze Academy. Regarding this ranking, she was quite satisfied with it, and her smile disappeared in a flash. Yi Zan couldn't help but grit her teeth when she saw the 4 students present. At this moment, she also knew the news of Chen Lu being killed. Although she was mentally prepared, the death of a genius student. It still caused her grief. Sigh. Forget it, forget it. The Yunluo Academy has produced a good seedling. Tang Hong shook his head with a bitter smile. He had finally accepted this ranking, but there was still a trace of grief in his heart. He had also heard the news of Liu Yanchao's death, but there was nothing he could do. This kind of trial was not like the ivory tower of the academy. It was understandable for him to lose his life in this trial. Fourth place. Star Sky Academy has lost all their face this time. Initially, they were full of confidence and wanted to get first place, but in the end, they were destroyed by their own students. What a pity. They have such a strong lineup, yet they have come so far. This is really, as expected. The moment the old man said those words, it attracted many whispers. After all, everyone had seen Kang Fang's madness. He had eliminated 3 of their students and forced one of them to withdraw. This matter would probably spread across the entire star domain very quickly. Xing Qianyu's expression was ugly as he endured the whispers of the crowd. Wu Tiandu and Sang Shoshan also shut their mouths when they saw this, fearing that they would provoke Xing Qianyu's fury. Next up is the reward for the competition. Old Man Chang was about to speak, as if he had sensed something. His expression suddenly changed. At the same time, Ling Jiyu and Lu Chong had the same feeling. They didn't wait for the 3 of them to speak. The sky that was originally clear for tens of thousands of miles suddenly became covered with dark clouds, and in an instant, a beam of light that seemed to penetrate the heaven and earth slashed down from the clouds, enveloping the entire Star Moon Island. The sky within the pillar of light was filled with stars in an instant. The bright light of the stars was extremely dazzling. What's going on? This kind of pressure. Even our sect's supreme elders don't have it. Could it be the heavens? Enveloped by the light pillar, everyone was stunned. Just as they were in the midst of a heated debate, Old Man Chang, Ling Jiyu, and Lu Chong suddenly bowed toward an empty space in the middle and said, "Welcome, Venerable One." As his voice faded, a stream of starlight poured down from the sky. Within the starlight, a robust figure could be faintly seen. Instantly, everyone felt an irresistible pressure permeating over like floodwater. The figure in the pillar of light shook slightly, and the bright stars in the sky became even more dazzling. Billions of starlight fell down vertically, all around the pillar of light, as if the subjects were worshipping the emperor. Swoosh! The pillar of light gradually disappeared. A muscular man covered in armor slowly took a step forward. The stars around him whistled. The man's steps were extremely graceful. He stepped on the Big Dipper. His feet were connected to the stars, showing an incomparably majestic aura. Swish! Swish! At the same time that the armored man took a step forward, everyone on the mountain peak could not withstand this pressure and knelt down one after another. Su Ziyang's face was ashen as he looked at Yi Zan and Tang Hong, whose faces were also flushed red. They were the top figures in the academy and had never knelt down to anyone before. But this time, facing this mysterious expert, they actually felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. Their legs involuntarily knelt down. On the side, Xiao Yan was still unconscious. He quietly lay on the uneven ground. Mu Yuyang and the others beside him had their chest wounds stopped quite a bit and their expressions had become much more normal. I didn't know that the Venerable One had come. I hope that the Venerable One can atone for my offense. After waiting for a long time without seeing the armored man speak, Old Man Chang felt his scalp go numb. He could only force himself to speak. Cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. These venerables were Star Domain Guardian, and they were all super experts who had fought alongside the old master. They were incomparably powerful. If they knew that Yuv Mu had escaped right under their noses, no one would say anything even if they were killed. Heaven's will. After a long while, just as everyone was unable to suppress their emotions, the armored man suddenly spoke. In his tone, as he spoke, a sigh could be heard. A sigh seemed to be faintly transmitted from the entire place. Everyone's emotions were affected, causing their hearts to feel even more suppressed. When they heard this, Old Man Chang, Ling Ji-yu, and Lu Chang's expressions changed drastically. They were just about to speak when the heavy voice of the armored man sounded beside their ears. Forget it. I can't blame you for this. I also didn't expect that Master would pass the cultivation technique to that little guy. If the profound crystal realm hadn't been destroyed, Yuv Mu wouldn't have escaped. Hearing the voice transmission of the armored man, the three of them were stunned for a moment. Then, they nodded their heads, and the dark look in their eyes disappeared. After all, even they couldn't bear such a responsibility. Everyone, get up. Retracting his gaze, the armored man withdrew his aura and spoke calmly. Who? The terrifying aura nearly broke everyone's spine as they felt their bodies lighten. Everyone hurriedly stood up and looked at the armored man in shock. The latter was wrapped in stars and looked like a saint. Only two eyes as deep as the starry sky could be seen under the exquisite helmet. This caused everyone who came into contact with this gaze to involuntarily lower their heads, not daring to meet it. I am one of the Star Domain Guardian. I have also paid a little attention to this match in the 4 Academies competition. The performance of these students is pretty good. Star Domain Guardian? Although they had long guessed that the identity of the armored man was not ordinary, hearing the latter say it personally still caused everyone to be violently shocked in their hearts. To them, the Star Domain Guardian was merely a legendary existence. They did not expect that it would appear in front of them today. Kai. The armored man did not speak after his words ended. His deep eyes looked at the few unconscious students. He waved his hand and a majestic starlight aura poured down from the sky and entered their bodies. A moment later, everyone, including Xiao Yan, frowned and slowly opened their eyes. All the injuries within their bodies recovered under the illumination of the starlight. Hiss! Everyone suddenly inhaled a breath of cold air when they saw the technique that the armored man casually displayed. Even if these people were to use 6th-grade medicine pills to treat their injuries, it would still take quite some time. This Star Domain Guardian merely waved his hand and healed everyone's injuries. The few people who woke up from their coma were startled when they saw the mysterious man standing in the middle. Xing Qianyue stood at the side. When he saw Kang Feng, he also woke up. The ferociousness in the latter's eyes had long disappeared, and a familiar feeling rushed towards them. When he sensed this, Xing Qianyu's expression changed slightly. This fellow might really be possessed by something. Recalling the furious look of Old Man Chang and Ling Ji-yu, Xing Qianyu's facial expression changed. Cold sweat flowed down from his forehead. This was what he remembered. It seemed like he had really done something unforgivable. You all did well. However, your strength is still too weak. Otherwise, you wouldn't have let Yuv Mu leave. The armored man looked at Xiao Yan and the others. His voice became softer and softer, and no one noticed his last words. The armored man's eyes were like a torch as he slowly scanned the people present. He paused for a moment on Zhou Xingyue and Zhou Yuan, then said, "Some of you are quite talented. Work hard and cultivate. In the future, you might be a top cultivator in the star field." When they heard what the Star Domain Guardian said, everyone was stunned. That sentence was very vague. Who knew who it was referring to? Warning everyone, if you want to live, you must do your best to cultivate. The great world is no longer as peaceful as you think it is. Remember, even if it is the Star Domain Guardian, there will be times when it will fall. As he spoke, the starlight shone brightly. The armored man had already lost his body. He turned into a gorgeous star and rushed into the sky. Following a buzzing sound, the starlight in the sky dissipated, and the clouds cleared the sky. What do you mean? The great world is no longer calm? Hearing these inexplicable words, everyone had strange expressions on their faces as they discussed animatedly. Seeing the armored man leave, they felt relieved in their hearts, but at the same time, the doubt in their hearts grew even stronger. Xiao Yan pursed his lips, although he didn't know what had happened just now. Hong Long, Xiao Yan's lips twitched. Although he didn't know what had happened earlier, he could imagine that the Gu Wu would most likely return after Yu Mu escaped. At that time, the 9 disciples would be gathered together. Old Man Chang and the other two's faces darkened when they heard the meaning of the armored man's words. It seemed like Yu Mu had almost recovered from the detection of the armored man. Kang Feng's eyes sparkled, and his facial expression changed. Although his mind was blank right now, he knew what he had suffered in that mysterious forbidden area. Later on, his consciousness was devoured step by step, and he had no idea what he had done. Forget it. The Venerable has just arrived to make a comment. Don't be too shocked. Next, I will distribute the rewards to all of you. After that, it will be a great battle for the geniuses. Old Man Chang forced a smile and waved his sleeve. It seemed as if he had dispersed the injustice in his heart. According to the order, the last place will be the Star Sky Academy. Each of your students can only choose one of these items. Lu Chong waved his sleeve as he spoke. Immediately, hundreds of items appeared. Various spirit weapons, medicine pills, spirit cores, and talismans were densely packed together, filling everyone's eyes. However, the best among the weapons were only high-tier spirit weapons. Although there were a large number of these items, their quality was not worthy of praise. No one is here to take them? Then, the reward from the Star Sky Academy will be gone. After waiting for a while, Old Man Chang smiled and said loudly when he saw that no one from Kang Feng's group came forward. Sang Hao and the others remained silent after hearing this. With their abilities, they wouldn't care about a spirit weapon at all. However, this kind of humiliation made them feel ashamed to come and collect it. This was an insult to the Star Sky, who had once been the #1 sect. Alright, the next item is the Southern Sky Academy. You guys can choose any 3 of these items. After putting away all the items, Lu Chong waved his hand. Another pile of items appeared, although a little less. However, the quality was clearly higher than those from earlier. Each spirit weapon was glowing with a brilliant light. Its might was clearly not ordinary. At a glance, it was either a powerful high-tier spirit weapon or a Tier 5 medicine pill that possessed a unique effect. For example, the Wild Origin Pill, a peak 5th stage medicine pill. It was enough to make a first-grade Monarch Emperor fight 5 Monarch Emperor warriors in a short period of time. The repercussions were not particularly obvious. These are all good stuff. I just don't know how the reward for the first place in the Yunluo Academy will be like. Wu Shaoqi's eyes lit up when she saw these treasures. She mumbled to herself. Number 1, Xiao Yan was not surprised when he heard that. However, he was still slightly happy in his heart. The inexplicable pressure in his heart also vanished at this moment. The 4 men from the Southern Sky Academy came forward one after another. There was no lack of outstanding treasures in these items. Even with their wealth, they were still envious of them. Xiao Yan looked at a blonde youth among the 4. The latter seemed to have sensed something and looked at Xiao Yan. When he saw the faint smile on Xiao Yan's face, Lei Yunting pursed his lips. A trace of gloominess flashed across his face, and he turned his head away without saying anything. Xiao Yan retracted his gaze and lowered his head. He recalled the battle with Kang Feng. At that time, his mind was almost unclear, and he was completely relying on his weak will to support himself. Furthermore, the origin qi used by Xing Luo had exceeded his imagination. The Kiaras that Kiara had poured into him had actually been completely used up. Even if he wanted to use the Buddha Fury Fire Lotus, he wouldn't have the strength to do so. Thinking of Kiara, Xiao Yan suddenly looked in the direction of Glaze Academy. Zhan Qingyi, Kiara, Su Yuhan, and another student Yuan Zian were standing around Yu Zhan. Their faces were all gloomy. Knowing the death of a good friend, no one could calm down. He, Xiao Yan, you were taken advantage of by that little girl just now. Just as Xiao Yan was looking in the direction of Glaze Academy, the Xiaoao's voice suddenly sounded. There was a trace of ridicule in its tone. What? Xiao Yan raised his brows and asked in his heart. But it was also to save you, so I won't tell Shuan and Kai Lin. The Xiaoao did not reply, instead, it muttered to itself, causing Xiao Yan's face to turn black. Save me. Xiao Yan was stunned. He looked at Kiera once again. The latter was like a water lotus that could not be compared to a cool breeze, causing people to have the desire to protect her. Forget it. I was unconscious at that time and did not know anything. As if he knew something, Xiao Yan looked at his nose, pretending not to understand. HMPH. I saw everything. The Xiao Ao did not let him off. The man in armor's treatment just now had also completely healed his injuries. Xiao Yan was so angry that his teeth itched. However, he was also lamenting in his heart. Where did that young and innocent Xiao Ao go? While the two of them were secretly talking, Zhou Buyi and the other three had also chosen their own items. Unlike the others, Zhou Buyi only took out a talisman paper. He only glanced at the rest of the items, not interested in them at all. Putting away the talisman paper, Zhou Buyi was silent for a moment. He first looked at Mu Yuyang, then turned his eyes to Xiao Yan. There was a trace of heaviness on his face. After he woke up, he heard Tang Hong talk about the final battle between Xiao Yan and Kang Feng. He thought that this guy was just a student with some skills, but he never thought that he would have such strength. Seeing Zhou Buyi looking at him, Xiao Yan gently smiled and nodded to the former. Zhou Buyi laughed bitterly when he saw this. He walked to Tang Hong's side and did not speak. His expression was extremely complicated. Next is the Second Glaze Academy. Everyone can take away 3 items from here. At the same time, you can also ask the 3 of us for a condition. As long as it's within our ability, we will consider agreeing to it. After Zhou Buyi and the others had finished selecting the items, Lu Chong waved his hand. The items floating in the air had all disappeared, replaced by dozens of even rarer treasures. There were even quite a few monarch skill that had reached the monarch arts, and each and every one of them was glowing with a strange light. It seemed to contain an infinite amount of power. Some of the origin cheese that were wrapped in medicine pills. One could even see a huge amount of pill cheese circulating within them. Clearly, they had already reached the 6th grade. Tisk tisk. I am even tempted by these things. The rewards for each batch of 4 academies competition are really too generous. Upon seeing the appearance of these treasures, some of the Emperor cultivation experts present took a deep breath. Their eyes were filled with envy and even a vague greed. However, after witnessing Old Man Chiang's strength, they could only think about it in their hearts. None of them dared to take any action. After all, the pressure that the armored man had given them was too terrifying. That's right. As expected of the competition that even the Star Domain Guardian has to pay attention to. I'm really envious. The reward for the 2nd place has already reached such a level. I wonder what the reward for the 1st place is. Some experts praised from the bottom of their hearts. Even the 4 great families of the star field might not be able to bring out such a reward without batting an eye. Looking at the rare treasures floating in the air, even Sang Hao's eyes flashed with a trace of envy. Although he had a high status in the Sang clan, he was still envious of these treasures. Originally, their rewards should have been better than these. If it wasn't for Kang Feng, given their strength, it would have been a piece of cake for them to obtain the 1st place. Sang Hao could not help but ask Kang Feng when he thought of this. The latter's face was cold as he stared at the ground without moving. Although he appeared calm, there was an endless fury rising in his eyes. He had actually been used by someone in such a manner. This was a great humiliation to him, who was a proud person. State your conditions? It was different from what he had expected. Xiao Yan's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He watched Zhan Qingyi and the other 3 go forward to pick the items that he liked. An idea suddenly popped up in Xiao Yan's mind, causing his heart to beat violently. Sorry, even a supreme saint would not be able to revive the dead. Old Man Chang was slightly stunned by Kiera's condition. Then, he shook his head with a bitter smile. The former condition was to revive the dead Chen Lu, but how could such a thing be possible? Life and death were the eternal law of the heaven and earth. Even a supreme saint would die one day. Reviving a dead person was even more ridiculous. The hope on Kiera's small face instantly disappeared when she heard this. It turned into an endless sense of loss. Under the urging of the 3 of them, she finally spoke of another condition, which was to become more familiar with the spatial law. Ha ha ha, this is simple. Old Man Chang laughed heartily. He extended his hand. Under the gazes of everyone present, the space in his palm swiftly disappeared. Spatial fragments fell layer by layer. Endless spatial laws gathered together. Within a couple of breaths, they formed a silver origin chi bamboo slip. This is a spatial manipulation technique that was passed down from the heavens. This technique will naturally be mastered after becoming a heavenly sovereign level expert. Therefore, it isn't considered a secret. Old Man Chang handed the bamboo slip formed by the silver origin chi to Kiera. He chuckled and revealed the source. This also caused all the shocked experts to understand. If the former was able to casually use the spatial law, he would already be an ordinary heavenly sovereign expert. After resolving the conditions that the four girls had raised, Old Man Chang looked at Xiao Yan and the rest. His loud and clear voice sounded beside everyone's ears. First place in the 4 academies competition, the Yunluo Academy. 5 students. You can receive any 5 treasures. Or you can ask me to give you 3 conditions. Each of you can only choose one of these 2 conditions. Everyone was stunned after hearing this. This condition was different from the past. In the previous years, the first place in the 4 academies competition was given 4 items and 1 condition. But this time, the first place was given 4 items and 1 condition. Why did he still have a choice? While everyone was bewildered, Lu Chang, who was standing beside the old man, had a solemn expression on his face. He waved both of his hands, and countless origin chis flew out from his fingertips, covering a large area of the empty space, turning it into a completely sealed space. No one could clearly see what was happening inside. Go, this is what you deserve. Su Ziyang smiled lightly. His mood was unprecedentedly pleasant, and the smile on his face had become bigger. After so many years in the 4 academies competition, the Yunluo students had finally made him feel proud of himself. The long-cherished wish in his heart had finally come to an end. The 5 of you, come in one by one. The first one is Zhu Tianwo. Suddenly, Old Man Chiang's voice came from the spatial zone, causing Zhu Tianwo, who had a smile on his face, to be startled. He took a deep breath and walked forward in front of everyone's eyes. He slowly merged into the spatial zone of the origin chi and disappeared without a trace. It should be according to the elimination sequence. The next one should be Wu Xiaoqi. Mu Yuyang could tell the order of the summons at a glance. As expected, after about 10 minutes after Zhu Tianwo went in, the old man's voice sounded again. Next, Wu Xiaoqi. Quote,